Is it in? Good look. You just relax and enjoy it all.
He uses acupuncture needles in the traditional points, but with a twist. Through them, he directs a form of electricity, as he calls it. But he doesn't draw the electricity from a wall socket. He claims to generate it within his own body. It was nothing like any acupuncture I'd ever had. I was getting really powerful electric shocks and couldn't control my movements at all. He says that what he does is no more supernatural than an electric eel, which also knows how to harness its yin and yang energies.
Yin yang, positive and negative, you know. And my positive from here and my negative from here. And we meet together, this can get like electricity.
And is this because you're special? You have a special sort of
It's for meditation every day.
It's meditation that does it?
Meditation every day. Like a yoga. But I study about 18 years.
18 years?
18 years. From my childhood before.
Can you project this energy through your hands only or through other things as well?
Only my hand.
Only your hands.
Like you can touch me. Like this. It's nothing, okay? It's my burn. It's like this.
Our sound recordist, Simi, was skeptical at first. Later, he told us that anybody could learn this. God had given us all the yin-yang polarity, but it takes discipline and meditation to awaken and control it. And you must be very aware of your emotions. This energy can be dangerous. It can kill as well as heal. Then he asked for our newspaper. It's how he'd healed my eyes that made me wonder. What do these people living in the shadows of the volcanoes still know that we of the West have forgotten?
I first met him in the early 80s in a Chinatown of urban Java. He didn't want his real name or address revealed, so we called him DJ for Dynamo Jack. He was only a healer, he said, but he did direct a powerful energy generated from his own body into his patients. Sometimes he used the needles, sometimes just his hands. He called the energy Qi, and it was so strong that he usually needed a grounder to hold his patients' feet. For years we followed him around Java on his healing rounds, pleading to be allowed to film him, but he always refused, saying his powers resulted from a type of meditation with an ancient tradition of secrecy. It was only when my brother Lorne was suffering from a serious eye infection that he finally allowed us to film him in 1987.
It was nothing like any acupuncture I'd ever had. I was getting really powerful electric shocks and couldn't control my movements at all.
Yin yang, positive and negative, you know. And my positive from here and my negative from here. And we meet together, this can get like electricity.
And is this because you're special? You have a special sort of
No, it's meditation every day.
It's meditation that does it.
Meditation every day. Like you can touch me, like this. It's nothing, okay? It's my burn. It's just like this.
For our sound recordist, it was also a shocker. He then took our newspaper outside and showed us how Qi can also be used to set things on fire. When he heard we'd shown this footage in public, he was very upset and refused all our future efforts to contact him again. As the years passed, we sadly resigned ourselves to never seeing him again. My brother Lorne never did, for by 1997 he was already dead, when I again found myself with DJ, now treating me for an eye problem. But it wasn't this that brought me back. He had tracked me down out of the blue and invited me to tell me a story. He'd just returned from 2 years on a deep meditational journey, alone in the heart of Borneo. Amongst his revelations, he had seen, he said, how history was moving on into great change, and the old wisdom was vanishing. So he'd called me back to film just enough of him to remind us that we all have undreamed of powers sleeping within us, and that there's nothing special about him except for his training in waking them. Grounding this patient, my cameraman Joe is having to use all his weight to keep contact. But Qi is pushing him away. He seems able to control the amplitude of this Qi, like a dimmer switch, and it causes uncontrollable responses in the patients and their grounders.
I can barely keep my hand on you. It wants to fly off. The electricity so strong.
This mother unwittingly grounds her child. He won't sit still, so she's asked to hold him and grin and bear it. Sometimes signs of this passing energy can be seen in the transmitter too. This chi stuff is only the surface, he says, of the real adventure beneath, in the meditational technique. Projecting chi from the palm of the hand can also be used to resist rifle pellets, he says. First, you learn to distinguish between yin and yang qi in your body. Then how to pool it in your navel chakra. Then how to project it, he says. And it's the proportionate mixture between yin and yang which accounts for different effects, like pulling or pushing objects or igniting them. Then he gets really strange. He says that mastering yin qi is the key to igniting them. Then he gets really strange. He says that mastering yin qi is the key to the spirit world. There's a long tradition of Indonesian krisis being possessed by spirits. So people bring him their krisis to see if they're duds. Here, he says, he doesn't manipulate matter by projecting mixtures of yin and yang qi. He merely creates a field of yin energy in which, he says, if there's a spirit, it can manifest itself. So I invited a small group of scientists back from the United States with measuring equipment to test if DJ was for real. And if so, where might this energy belong on the electromagnetic spectrum? Catherine Cook, CEO of the Mind Science Foundation in Texas. Dr. Roger Nilsson, a Swedish medic and international racing sailor. Dr. Greg Simpson, a physicist from New York's Albert Einstein University, and Andreas Polak, one of DJ's Australian students. The visitors are confident they'll uncover him as a fraud in no time. Greg is the first guinea pig, and he's uncomfortable about showing that he can feel anything at all. Dr. Roger doesn't know what to expect. Out comes the metal detector, like the things they use in airports, to see if he has any concealed metal in his body. Then the voltmeter, to try and measure the chi. But how to get it to work? Where's the ground? What settings? DJ suggests that as his negative is his perineum, and his positive is his navel chakra, perhaps that's where the electrode should be attached. He doesn't stand on his dignity. He's eager to help, but still no readings. They're getting shocks off his arm, and now they're on the right settings, but the needle still isn't moving. DJ says it isn't electricity, it's chi.
It's 1, 2, up, I feel it in my whole body. I feel it at 3, 0.3, I feel it in my legs. Shit,
But suspecting there's some tricky setup on his premises they can't find, they insist we all go to a randomly chosen hotel room several miles away to see if he can light a light bulb with his fingers. It doesn't ground on the wall. So Greg holds and grounds one wire, while DJ pumps chi through the other. The bulbs are LEDs, light-emitting diodes, which ignite in different colors according to the intensity of current.
Yes.
On, off, on.
Brilliant.
Oh, you're blinking.
Things were going well. DJ was enjoying it too, until he invited us all out to lunch at his local, where he tried to push a chopstick through the table. He couldn't get it through the formica surface, so he came up through an inch of wood from underneath. Not only did he draw his own blood, but a chopstick splinter had caught Alison here between the eyes, drawing more. The incident was laughed off apologetically, but next morning he was a different man, drawn and upset. He said he'd been visited all night by his long-dead master, raging that he'd broken the strict taboos of his sect, never to show off in public and never to cause harm or draw blood. He felt deeply chastised. All further testing and filming must end. Never again would he submit to public scrutiny, nor accept any new students. He would sink from sight and continue his healing in obscurity, as he had done since before we met him in the early 80s, and had always told us was right.
The movie quality.
Can you get a video, please? Yeah, that's fine. I checked, it was...
Oh, but can I see your hand? Isa.
Slowly and full power. Powerful. No, it's not full power. That keluar kok tenaga.
The energy didn't come.
Because too fast.
Very slowly and full of concentration and force it out.
Ngeten.
Oh,
Lebih kurang fokus.
it was better.
Not good enough. Not good enough. Must be nope.
Must be like the one just now. Right?
Yeah. Was all new to me. It's all new.
Lebih kurang ngeten, ngeten apa sih?
It's like that just means like, you know, when you go to the bathroom and you have to do the things in the bed, you have to push it really out.
Yeah.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So with all your strength and concentration.
Turn over the gun. It's good. It's good. Ini baru bagus. Tadi kurang.
No, it's much better.
But I went fast.
Yeah.
You see that? I went too fast.
Cepat tapi. Tadi keluar cepat toh.
I didn't go slow.
Dia nggak pelan.
Enough?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Is it the movie first? Look, the movie first. Is
it recorded? Stop. It's supposed to be. Jadi harusnya record. So it's like level 1 when you have to sit like that. When you have to...
The same energy fields that enable people like Ingo Swann to leave their body and travel through space are thought to be responsible for causing objects to move. This rare talent for moving objects by force of will alone has been termed psychokinesis, or PK. Ninel Kulagina is a Russian housewife who has this ability. These films of her demonstrating PK were made in a Russian hotel room and smuggled out of the country by American researchers. She gets the object moving with gestures of her hands or by fixating the object with nothing more than her eyes. Kulagina has been studied intensively for more than 10 years by Professor Sergeyev of Leningrad University, who has reported on her work. These films and demonstrations are subjects of unending controversy. Is she a sensitive or a charlatan? According to those present at these demonstrations, it sometimes takes Mrs. Kulagina 2 to 4 hours to rev up her supernormal powers. Her pulse races to 250 beats a minute. She loses up to 3 pounds after a demonstration of psychokinesis. Edward Naumov is a Soviet researcher sitting to the left of Ninel Kulagina. He reports she was actually much sicker than she looks in the film. The strain on her heart was so great we had to stop the camera several times. It took us over 7 hours to make the film, and afterward she temporarily could not speak or see. For days after doing the tests, her arms and legs hurt. She felt dizzy and could not sleep. She described a sensation that usually heralds success, a sensation like that of a hot stream of energy traveling from the base of her spine up to the back of her neck and remaining there as if waiting for her to direct it. She adds ruefully that this hot current often leaves her with a bad headache. According to the Soviet view, PK is not accomplished by mind over matter, but rather by mind over force field. The Soviets claim they've already devised machines that create magnetic and other kinds of artificial fields that increase psychic powers, particularly telepathy and PK. According to Dr. Ravitz, in the 1951 Yale Journal of Biology and Medicine, the action of the sun and moon also affects the body's force field. Dr. Sergeyev agrees. The most favorable time for PK is during magnetic disturbances of the Earth caused by sunspot activity. What is beginning to emerge is a new picture of the human being, not an alienated creature, but a being enmeshed in an ebb and flow with everyone and everything around him. The pulsing magnetic fields of machines, Earth, moon, sun, the thoughts and emotions of ourselves and other people, all affect the energy fields of our bodies. And in turn, the Russians say, our psychic
Alla
powers.
Vinogradova, a psychic renowned for her powers. In Russia, psychics are called extrasensors, and Vinogradova discovered her extrasensory powers more than 25 years ago, when she found she could control the movements of a metal tube without touching it. Her ability is called telekinesis, and her demonstrations were witnessed and documented by numerous Russian scientists and psychic researchers. While many regarded her powers as astounding and unique, skeptics suggested her talents might simply be due to the effects of static electricity. Vinogradova believes that electrostatic forces merely augment her psychic powers.
The lightest object that I could move was an aluminum cigar tube that weighed 7 grams. As I developed my ability, I could move objects up to 200 grams. Physicists and other specialists said that it will be impossible to move an object this heavy with just pure electrostatic energy.
Vinogradova was given an ordinary cigarette to demonstrate her power. In trying to understand the nature of her ability, researchers applied a Russian invention believed to record human auras, a technique called Kirlian photography.
They were interesting experiments made by physicists using Kirlian photography. And they took pictures of my fingers before I began to work, and then again after I finished, and the photographs of the fingers were absolutely different.
やってきたのは兵庫県姫路セントラルパーク。ここにはホワイトライオンなど珍しい動物たちがたくさんいるんです。まず最初に気で癒すターゲットは草食ゾーンにいるアキシスジカ。警戒心の強い彼らに気を送るとどんな反応をするんでしょうか。
はい、じゃあ行きます。
早速実験開始。おもむろに右手をかざしゆっくりと動かし始めた神沢さん。こんな遠くで交流始まったんですよ。気の交流。神沢さんによれば右手から走った気で動物を包み込んで精神の交流を図っているんだそうです。これにより動物たちの緊張がほぐれリラックスするといいます。こうして 気を送り始めて間もなく、
どうした？
一頭がしゃがみ込みました。すると不思議なことに鹿たちが次々としゃがみ込み始めたのです。
本当すごい、すごい落ち着いてる。
さらに
すごい。
天地融合交流やってみよう。見てて。
そりゃ天地融合交流？手から発する気を一旦地面に押し付け、地中と空中の気を融合させ、気を増幅させる技なんだそうです。神沢さんはこの技で全ての鹿をしゃがませると言います。
これぐーっと圧縮感が向こうへ行くんですね。圧迫。
するとさらに一頭がしゃがみ込みました。しかもなんと通りかかったダチョウもしゃがみ込んでしまいました。そして気がつけば立っているのは一頭だけ。追い込みに入った神沢さんは
気投げやってよ。
気投げ？これはピンポイントで気を送る技なんだそうです。すると最後の一頭もしゃがみ込んでしまいました。30頭以上はいた鹿が10分とかからないうちに全てしゃがみ込んだのです。気を送る前の映像と比較するとこの通り。しかもなんとしゃがみ込んだ鹿のほとんどが目を閉じて寝ています。これは気の力でリラックスしたからなのでしょうか。仙石先生に聞いてみました。
アキヒツジカがああいうふうに群れで座り込むということはある行動なんですけども、あの時にやり始めたっていうのは何かあるかもしれないですね。
そこで気を送られている動物の体にはどんな変化が起きているんでしょうか。体温の変化を見るため熱感知カメラを使い調べてみると、なんと体温が変化していたんです。こちらが気を送る前、そしてこちらが気を送っている状態。明らかに赤い部分が増え体温が上昇していることが分かります。動物たちは体温が上がることにより血の巡りが良くなり、お風呂に入っているような状態で気持ちよくなって寝てしまったのかもしれません。それでは他の動物にも気を送ってみましょう。
じゃあやります。
次のターゲットはコツメカワウソです。落ち着きなく動いている彼らに気を送り始めると、目をしょぼしょぼさせかなり眠そう。
眠いな。
さらになんと大あくび。またまた寝てしまうのか。
なんだか僕急に眠くなってきた。僕も眠くなってきちゃった。
なんと2頭がお互いを枕にして寝てしまいました。さらにホワイトライオンにも気を送ると、3頭が身を寄せ合いしゃがみ込んで寝始めました。おやすみなさい。
なんですげえこれ。
どうやら動物に気を送るとリラックスするのか寝てしまうようです。ならば寝姿がちょっと面白い動物に気を送ってみることにしましょう。まずはこちら。なんだこの小さな動物は。顔から足が生えているような不思議な動物は小耳トビネズミくん。
よろしいですか。
早速気を送ってもらいましょう。果たしてどんな寝姿を披露してくれるのか。でもこんなに元気に動き回って本当に寝てくれるのか、正直ちょっと心配です。ところが急に動きが止まりました。すかさず集中的に気を送り始めると、 なんと目を閉じた。一気に眠気が襲ってきたのでしょうか。おお、やっぱり眠っていますよ。彼のちょっと変わった寝姿というのがこちら。長い足を放り出すようにひっくり返って寝ています。これは完全に寝入っている証なんです。でもなぜこんな体勢で寝るのでしょうか。本来彼らが寝るのは穴の中。ここなら外敵に襲われる心配がないため、安心しきって無防備な体勢で寝ることができます。次に気を送ってもらうのは四つ指飛びネズミくんです。クリッとした大きな目にウサギのような長い耳の持ち主。
僕全然眠くないからね。
はい、じゃあ始めます。
早速気を送ってもらいましょう。彼もまた気を受けて眠ってしまうんでしょうか。5分後。あらら、かなり眠そうですね。
マジで。
おっとっと、どうしたんだ僕。なんだか眠い。
そしてこのまま気を受けているうちに四つ指飛びネズミの体にある変化が起こりました。さてその変化とは一体何でしょうか。
いいですか。四つ指飛びネズミ。さらに深く眠ると、四つ指飛びネズミの体にある変化が起きる。わかりますね、起きてる姿。
はい。
よーく見ててください。ほら正面から見てる。これが起きてる姿。ね。この方の答えから見てみましょう。はい、どうぞ。
一番思いついたのが分かりやすいのが、全身の毛がこうバサバサっとこう立ち上がる。
なるほど。ハリネズミみたいになっちゃう。
はい。
寝てる時にこう立たせることによって何か外敵天敵から狙われる時に危険だよっていうのを寝ながらもアピールできるように、ちょっとなんか立ちかけたような気がするんですよね、さっき。
では残りの答え一斉に開けましょう。はい、どうぞ。純ちゃん右がダラン、ゴリダラン、カワダラン、マリナだ。はい、純ちゃん。
いやだからやっぱり耳は全部神経がなくなって、神経っていうかその意識がなくなるから、やっぱ根元から前にこうだらってやっぱこうなんですよね。
僕はこうペロンと垂れる感じですか。先生がこう気を送ってて、その気でもしかしたら先生が寝ちゃうんじゃないかと思って。
In Search Of has investigated the mystery of many ancient monuments, the pyramids, Stonehenge, and Easter Island. A solution to these puzzles may be concealed in Florida's Coral Castle. This monumental structure was created by one man with his bare hands in the 20th century. What strange forces created this castle of secrets?
This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine.
Coral Castle has been called the eighth wonder of the world. This place is a fantasy garden and an engineering marvel. The blocks are cut and set with great precision, locked without mortar. At 30 tons, the greatest single stone in Coral Castle is twice as massive as any in the pyramids. Here are massive megaliths, huge astrological symbols, and structures whose purpose is a total mystery. Surprisingly, 25 miles away is cosmopolitan Miami. Coral Castle was built not in ancient times, but in the 20th century. Most curious of all, Coral Castle was built in secret by one man, Edward Leedskalnin, a frail little hermit. With no modern machinery and with no help, he somehow hand-carved and lifted every single block, a total of 3 million pounds.
With all our modern technology, we might be able to duplicate the pyramids. But how could we ever do it with our bare hands? Dreamers beyond the fringe of science have postulated a long-lost art of harnessing anti-gravity. It seems incredible, but Ed Leedskalnin may have rediscovered these ancient secrets. Let's look at his life story.
The mystery of Coral Castle began in rural South Florida just after World War I. Settlers and land speculators began to move down from the East Coast, displacing the indigenous Seminole Indians. The newcomers found a humid, sprawling tropical land, full of mosquitoes and opportunities. The great Florida land boom was on. In 1919, as recreated here, a real estate man named Moser was scouting land along back roads near the Everglades. He spotted a stranger. At first, he thought it was a boy and was surprised to encounter a very small grown man. The stranger couldn't weigh more than 90 pounds. Moser, always friendly, offered a ride. The little man introduced himself, Edward Leedskalnin. Recently immigrated from Latvia, he said with a smile. Was searching this part of Florida for a specific plot of land. Moser realized the little man had advanced tuberculosis. Mrs. Moser always welcomed the strangers her husband brought home. Life was lonely in this new land. Edward Leedskalnin was very friendly, very polite, and confessed outright he hadn't a penny to his name. The Mosers selflessly took young Ed into their home and nursed him back to health. They listened with respect to his story of leaving Latvia, of his search all over America for the right type of land. "I'll know when I find it," he said. "It's for my sweet 16. He would never explain who she was, but Ed was obviously haunted by a dream or a memory of land and a castle for his sweet 16. As soon as he regained his health, Ed continued searching the backcountry. Crazy Ed and his rusty bike became the butt of many local jokes. Neighbors, watching him prod the ground, began rumors that he was hunting for buried treasure. Ed always rejected the good farmland. When people wondered why, he only smiled. Finally, he excitedly brought Moser to a remote plot. Moser was astounded, for Ed had unerringly located the worst acre in the state. It was all bedrock, right up to the surface. You couldn't plow it, you couldn't farm it. Moser gladly gave a small section to his friend. A few weeks later, Moser's curiosity got the better of him. He dragged his wife out through the brush to see what Ed could possibly do with that land. They couldn't believe their eyes. Ed had somehow cut a 10-ton block of solid coral right out of the bedrock and hoisted it into the air. As they nervously approached his flimsy tripod and the block which could crush them in an instant, they realized there was something more than craziness in Ed. How did he do it? Ed smiled and said, "It's not difficult, really. The secret is in knowing how." Why did he do it? He smiled again. "Someday, my sweet 16 will come." Working alone, he cut more blocks. All the locals had to visit and gape at this accomplishment. Ed was friendly, but firm. He would never tell his secret techniques, and he would always stop work when people came near. Trying to catch him at work, the neighbors took to spying. Some people swear they saw the rocks move. Ed could somehow sense their inquiring gaze. He would simply stop working and patiently wait until they gave up trying to discover his secrets. "60 years later, the completed coral castle still embodies a number of unsolved mysteries. Francis Wilson.
This block weighs 9 tons. It's just one piece of rock. See what you can do with one hand?
He's quite interested in safety, I know that, and he always wanted to make sure the children couldn't get down in here, and that was his gate to keep children from going down the steps.
Those who knew Ed remember him with great respect. Charles Williams and Bodil Lowe.
I guess I was maybe 6, 7 years old. I was born and raised about 300 yards from this place, and I would see Ed quite often at the little country store we had, and he was a very slight man. I don't think he was probably any taller than I am. I'm about 5'6". probably weighed somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pounds. He always looked frail and sickly, but obviously very strong.
He'd say this is because of the stars and the moon, and he would go on and he would show us his electrical machine. Now he made electricity, and he would jump in his bathtub and show how the water would come to certain levels and how he heated it with the sun. And he'd always divert your question.
As I say, a very gentle, kind person. He was, of course, highly intelligent. Many people thought he was a little cracked because he was smarter, I think, than they were, probably.
His whole life and whole being was very frugal. Just sustained himself, I think, more or less.
And some nights we'd come in the moonlight and sit and walk around in his park. And he would come out and tell us his story if he had a small audience. And he would go along in a very normal sort of a voice, and then we'd ask him why he did it. And they'd say, oh, well, someday my sweet 16 is coming, and he'd look up in the stars, and he would get very ethereal in his voice, and he just loved talking about his sweet 16.
And he always spoke of her as sweet 16. She never grew any older. It's kind of nice.
There were many rumors about mysterious Ed. One held that he was an eccentric miser and kept a stash of money. Late one evening in the 1930s, a band of toughs waited until he was alone in Coral Castle. Little Ed could never have imagined such a shocking intrusion into his private world. Prompted the most extraordinary feat of his life. Coral Castle was originally built in a remote area of Florida. For years, Ed Leedskalnin felt safe in isolation, away from the harsh realities of the cities. He had carved this place with his bare hands as a Shangri-La for his sweet 16. Barely surviving a brutal robbery, however, Ed decided to seek safer ground. When he moved, Ed took more than his toothbrush. He took Coral Castle itself. He hired a local truck owner, and with characteristic secrecy, politely asked the man to step around the corner. The truck would be loaded in just a minute. Piece by piece, Ed moved all 3 million pounds of rock 10 miles to its present location near Homestead, Florida. As usual, no one ever managed to see how he lifted the giant rocks, which weighed up to 30 tons apiece. How did he do it? There are many theories. 60 million years ago, this was all of South Florida. Thousands of miles of living coral reef. The rock which he used, fossil coral, may have internal forces which only Ed understood. A huge brain coral seems almost conscious, perhaps contemplating ancient secrets. Living coral constructs its own undersea castles. Forces deep in the earth fuse dead coral into oolite, a dense, strong organic rock. And most of South Florida has little topsoil over this bedrock. We asked the men at a rock quarry to try an experiment, to cut and lift a giant block of oolite. With diamond-tipped power saws, the cutting alone took several hours. The only way to break the block free, brute force. test. Could they detect any unusual buoyancy in the rock itself? Using a 600 horsepower crane, could they lift the rock? Crane almost tipped over, they managed to drag the block a few yards. What modern equipment would it take to duplicate Coral Castle?
It couldn't be done.
Charles Valois comments.
Not with a modern equipment. I wouldn't cut more than 4 foot long and 32 inches wide and 7 or 8 foot long. That's the most I'll cut. And you see the struggle I have getting it out with that machine.
This is the only known photo of Ed apparently working. Although he seems to be breaking the block free with wedges, a close look reveals that the block is already cut free, with a cable underneath. Engineers have been puzzled by this photo. Bruce Cathy has extensively studied and written on Earth forces. He believes that a harmonic grid inside the Earth's surface can create actual anti-gravity at certain nodes on the grid, and that Coral Castle was built on a position of harmonic resonance.
He's moved stones up to, or coral blocks up to 25 tons, and he'd put them up overnight just on his own. After he died, I checked some of the instruments he was using, and they're very, very primitive chisels and hammers and ropes and pulleys and things. Nobody can understand even today now how he done this. I found when I applied the harmonic mathematical basis to his position on the Earth's surface geometrically, that the same harmonic values popped up on the area where he was. He always said that he had the secrets of anti-gravity and magnetic fields, and he also said that he knew how they built the pyramids. So it appears if he was telling the truth, that it looks like he did have these secrets.
Ed performed many strange experiments with magnetism, although he had no source of conventional electricity. He hinted to neighbors he was on the verge of a monumental breakthrough and published his preliminary results. His book, however, is as incomprehensible as Einstein's unified field theory. Just as Ed always worked in secret, he also preferred to take his own photographs, posing in his one suit with a self-timed box brownie. These films are not the best quality, but they are the only known movies of Ed Leedskalnin. They were discovered in 1980 in the back of a closet. They reveal the Ed that most visitors knew. Animated, friendly, a simple man.
With this same simplicity, Ed awoke one morning in December of 1951. He put on his one suit, hopped a bus, and checked into Miami's county hospital. The doctors were appalled to find him near death from malnutrition. For a while, he rallied under their care, and then died quietly in his sleep.
Even after his death, Ed left a few surprises. Neighbors guarded the grounds until authorities could make an official investigation. They found his living quarters as Spartan and as ingenious as the rest of Coral Castle. They also found $3,800 in crisp $100 bills and what resembled a treasure map. All attempts to follow the directions on the map were futile. Nothing seemed to correspond to our normal three-dimensional geometry. Ed left many mysteries, a lot of money, and a castle for his sweet 16. Was she a real person? Or was she a dream, an ideal of all that is good? Children love to visit Coral Castle. They instinctively respond to the childlike sense of play which is so magnificently sculpted here. In his life, Edward Leedskalnin carved and lifted over 3 million pounds of rock. Yet there is one small stone weighing 50 pounds, which he never managed to lift. Ironically, on both sides of his simple grave in Miami are the graves of 2 little children. We think he would have felt at home.
Electrostatic energy field left near the object after she had moved it. Flashlight bulbs placed near the test site would light up briefly, confirming the presence of this energy. The Soviets had
wire, while DJ pumps chi through the other. The bulbs are LEDs, light-emitting diodes, which ignite in different colors according to the intensity of current.
Yes. On, off, on.
Brilliant.
Oh, you're blinking.